Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Brian Bauer, and I've got a new guest on the channel today. Some more people know him than me, but some of you may not know him, and his name is Taylor Danley. What's going on, Taylor?
Hey, man, how's it going? Thanks for having me on.
Hey, it's going so far so good. We didn't have really too much for technical issues today. I didn't spend a bunch of time on OBS trying to click a bunch of stuff, so I think so far so good, right?
That's a win.
It's always a win,
good.
you know. It's nice when things, generally sound good and work out the first time, Pretty much. We had a little connection issue here and there and stuff, but anyway,
I think we're good now.
I hope we're good now. Maybe we'll just have an awkward interview or something like that. I don't know how this is going to go. I always wing it. It's always from the seat of my pants. It's possible. I'm an awkward dude. And stuff. But anyway,
you're not that awkward.
No, I'm not too bad. It depends who we're talking to, really. But it's not like we're sitting here. Taylor, oh my God, it's Taylor Danley. Has anybody ever done that to you yet?
Because of YouTube, no.
No. Okay.
No, I was in a band like 10 years ago. That toured pretty regularly, and maybe that happened like once in that band. And it wasn't directed specifically towards me. It was just like, oh, you're in that band that I like. You know what I mean? Like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like they probably didn't even know me by name. But no, I've never really come across that fanboy sort of thing at all.
Yeah. Some people like it and some people don't, So for you guys that don't know, Taylor Danley plays in a band called Sacrificer, and he does a lot of reviews on YouTube. It's how, at least I know him well. I know you from Kevin Pamala, and in saying that,
right.
You have how many subs on YouTube right now?
Oh, like 12,500 or something like
12,500 is it's a lot more than me. And in saying that, so some of you guys might know him as, a music review or music gear reviewer and stuff, but you focus more on the extreme metal. And obviously that's totally what you're into. And we see on Instagram all the time, you get these, you post the comments that are kind of funny about the people who are mad.
I do.
That they're like, he didn't play the blues. I am upset.
Yeah, they get upset when you don't do the thing that they want you to do, which is kind of weird because it's like, I'm pretty out there with who I am. It's kind of hard. I have tattoos on my hands, and I have long hair, and if you go to my channel, like my name is in like a death metal logo, like it's pretty obvious what I do on my channel, but yet I still get people who comment on my videos that they're upset that I didn't demonstrate some like classic rock licks, or like I didn't show off. My favorite is when people like to tell me that when it comes to distortion, all tones are the same, and that there's not really any variation between distortions, and like the true test of something is like how well it can reproduce a clean tone, which is pretty funny because it's like, clean is like an amp's inherent nature. You have to do extra things to make it distorted, so it's not something that I actually agree with. But yeah, I get those comments quite a bit, and I like to post them on Instagram really for two reasons. Number one is just because like I don't take it super personally. It doesn't really bother me. Most times I think it's kind of funny, like I will try to make like a joke of it, and it just gives me content for my Instagram stories, which is great because, like I'm sure you're aware, sometimes it's like hard to fill those things up. You're thinking about things like you could be posting in there and like trying to keep it active, so you have that little colored ring around your face on Instagram. But really the second reason,
speaking of which,
I get there you go.
Yeah, right now. That's a good one. It'll be a good teaser for people, and that's the wrong Instagram. I've got two. So yeah, keep going. All right.
The second reason, and I think the kind of more important reason that I posted there, and whether or not it's having this effect or not, I'm not really sure, but there was a period there for a while where I was getting like a lot of other content creators, I guess, like just other people, whether they're in bands or whether they're they have YouTube channels or stuff like that, that were asking me You know, like, hey, do you get? I mean, in between other creatives, it's probably the most common question that I get or thing that comes up, and it's like, hey, do you get people like that leave you shitty comments? You know, I'm like, well, yeah, if you're on the internet, you're gonna get people that leave you shitty comments. Just the way the world works, you know. And so the other reason that I kind of post those things to Instagram is just to like sort of put that stuff out there to like, hey, I get these comments too, and it doesn't really bother me, and like it shouldn't bother you, you know. So hopefully, if you are maybe like a smaller content creator that follows me or something like that, or maybe you're in a band or something like that, and you're getting negative comments and it's bumming you out, then what my hope is that you go through my stories and you're like, oh, this guy gets them too, and it doesn't seem to bother him, so maybe I can deal with it in a better way too.
Exactly. No, that makes perfect sense, you know. Oh man, but the world of the internet, it's a wonderful place. There's always somebody who has to just shit on you. I kind of wonder though when it starts when you talk about the amps and the cleans and all that kind of stuff, that I don't know if maybe it's just a dumb thought. I could be wrong, but remember Guitar World? They before YouTube, everybody had like Guitar World magazine, and they always did reviews and stuff. And it was always like, here's this thing. Now we're gonna play blues on it. Did a certain crowd just want to stick with that? And now we have the world making this stuff, and you're just like, oh yeah, it's like I'm gonna do something for extreme metal, because what I have seen on your channel, from what I can tell, is that while somebody's like, oh, you're not playing the blues, you're not playing clean, somebody else is like, hey, finally somebody's doing this in an extreme metal context, and that's what I want.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing that's not common, right? And like that's sort of the audience that I'm serving, and it's funny. I actually. This kind of is like a recurring comment, but I'll get people who tell me they're like, what, and maybe they're trying to be good intention. It's not necessarily that they're trying to like shit on me or something, but it's just a funny way to look at it. They're like, why don't you do things that are more generic to appeal to a larger audience, right? And my response to that is always like, why would I do that when there are other people out there doing that? Like, you don't need, you don't need like another a blues guy. You know what I mean? There's already a bunch of them. You don't need another this, that. Like what I'm doing is very specific and very niche. And it's like the other part of that is like I'm being true. I'm being honest, because it's like that's the type of music I play. When I pick up a guitar, like that's, whether or not you get annoyed that maybe like I play the same grouping of riffs over and over and over again when I'm trying out gear. It's like that's just me. That's what I do, and I'm not trying to like fake it or anything, so I think that stuff is more important in the long run. And again, like you said, it's like I think far more often I get people that are happy that I'm actually demonstrating things or talking about things in the context of like the music that they listen to, rather than people that are upset that I didn't do the same thing that like 10 other channels did.
Yeah, I mean, that's when you watch those 10 other channels. Eventually, one of those guys is going to pick up a whatever X piece of gear and try it, or something else. It's just the internet. It's just people. They have their comfort zone. When something's different, it's either A, it's cool, or B, oh, I don't like that. Time to gatekeep.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's exactly.
Yeah, no, it definitely happens.
All right,
and it's fine. I mean, I'm like. It's like I said, I think it's the thing that I would try to drive home here, though, is it's like you do have to take all that stuff with a grain of salt, right? Because it's like, number one, there might be valuable information in those negative comments that could help you in the long run. You know what I mean? And it's kind of hard sometimes, especially being like a creative type person, to not take that stuff personally, because you're putting, especially like when you're being honest and stuff and really like putting yourself out there. It could be sort of disheartening to like, oh, like I gave this thing my all, and this person said that it sucked, and it can also be like really easy to fixate on that, and like, I don't know who said it, but basically it's true that, you can get 100 good comments and one negative comment, and you'll tend to focus on that one negative comment. And I think that like either way is sort of a trap, It's like you can't focus on it and you can't completely ignore it. You kind of have to like take like a balanced approach to it and go like, okay, well maybe they have a point here. Maybe my lighting did suck, or oh, I did mess up that riff. I need to tighten that up a little bit. But for the most part, I think that's part of doing anything online.
Yep.
Is learning how to take criticism.
I mean, any artist over the years has had to take criticism too. I think it's just you get bombarded with more of it online because everybody has access and everybody has a voice.
Oh yeah.
So it's one of those things. So anyway, dude, one of the things that I think everybody wants to know: were you the extreme metal guy? What
Sure.
got you into playing guitar? Like, and what are some of your influences? Like, what got you going there?
Oh. Okay.
I got a billion, and now my mind has gone blank.
No, I have two very specific things that got me interested in playing it. Well, three really. So, I was always interested in music. Like even as a toddler running around. My grandma was really into Elvis. Like
Nice.
She's huge Elvis fan. So there's always like Elvis around growing up. You know what I mean? So we always listened to, You Ain't Nothing But a Hound Dog, and she had a piano in her house also, and she used to let me, I don't know why, but she used to let me just bang on that thing all the time. And so that was probably my first like real introduction into music, was just slamming on this old antique piano, and making a bunch of noise and irritating everyone in the house.
I love doing
and
that.
then
I
so I was always interested in making music. I was always interested in like sounds and melodies, and it's just something that always appealed to me. And then really what got me into playing guitar was probably like the early to mid 90s. I got really into Aerosmith. So I was maybe like 10 years old or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, so it must have been like mid 90s. So, I was 10 years old, and I really, really got into Aerosmith, really got into Joe Perry. Like, I just thought that it was the coolest shit. And then my mom took me to see them live, again, really young, maybe 11 years old, something like that. And that had a huge impact on me and like me wanting to play guitar. So right around that time, I got my first guitar and started learning and everything. And then the other thing, if you remember this, there's a Guns N' Roses video, November Rain, where Slash is like, he's doing this solo in the cemetery, and there's like a pan like drone shot that's going on him.
I know the shot. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So really, like, those two things are what made me want to play guitar. Because I was just like, that is the coolest shit.
Yeah.
So after that, it just I didn't really ever want to put it down, And then, like as the 90s sort of happened, I got more into grunge and heavier music, and then just over time, my music preferences got heavier and darker, and and then fast forward, and here I am.
Here you are, the extreme metal guy, who the internet said should play blues. But either way, I mean, it's funny because like I didn't expect you to say Aerosmith.
Yeah, most people don't. Look, man, Aerosmith writes good songs.
Hey,
it is what it is.
It's cool. I'm more of a Guns N' Roses fan, I think, in that sense. But
Sure.
Aerosmith
equally, like,
is cool. They had some cool shit. So
I think it's really interesting that really like both those bands, they kind of, Aerosmith is like an older band, right? So like they went through several generations of like rock and roll and were able to stay relevant through all that time, which I think is like super impressive.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they didn't get caught up in a fad, right? Like they didn't get caught up in like the 70s hippie fad or like the 80s hair metal or anything. Like they kind of did their own thing and were able to stay huge through that whole thing. And then similarly with Guns N' Roses, it's like they kind of came up in like the 80s hair metal LA scene, but no one thinks about Guns N' Roses as a hair metal band, So
No.
I think both those bands are really, and again, to Guns N' Roses, I mean, didn't they just, well, not just, but they've toured like within the last few years, right?
Probably. I don't really know. I don't follow them.
Regardless, like they're still like a band that has a high amount of interest, because anytime something happens with Axl Rose, you see it online. You know, it's like, you know, are they really going to release a new album, or like, what's he doing now? He's singing for AC/DC. Like, what is this? You know, so I think that the enduring power of those bands says a lot about their ability musically, and just you know, how to maintain. I mean, look, like if you wanted a blueprint on like how to maintain a music career, they're not bad bands to look at, you know.
No, I think Tool might be another one too, because they somehow managed to stay relevant without an album for 13 years. Then so it's kind of related, but not. I don't know how far I'll get into this one, but. You remember Chinese Democracy, how it was like the album that was never going to come out, and it was just like this endless story of the album Chinese Democracy. Have you ever read the parts of the stories about I swore I heard a knock at my door, but I don't think I did. I hope not. It's kind of raining out, so whatever. Anyway, have you ever heard the stories about Buckethead and recording for Chinese Democracy?
No.
Oh, holy crap! They're insane stories. Like they're absolutely nuts. So I'll tell you one of them, which is kind of cool. Now take it with a grain of salt. Keep in mind that I read this probably in Guitar World like years ago, so you can look this up. But at the time, Axl Rose, he had some like he brought some puppy or something. I think. See, Axl Rose, like they consider him like a jerk, but they say like he could be like one of the nicest guys that you can meet too. And he got a puppy for somebody. I forget the reason being, if like their other dog died, and of course he felt bad, so he found them a puppy. And I don't know what it was, like some sort of husky thing or something. My memory plays it. Correct in my memory. It was like a half wolf puppy, which I don't think is a great idea, but hey, it's Axl Rose here. You got to do something extreme. Right. So now we have to picture the studio. You got Buckethead, and he's in character. Buckethead doesn't really go out of character if that mask is on. Are you aware of Buckethead? Mm-hmm. Like,
oh yeah,
okay,
sure.
So he was, he was all about, he was born in a chicken coop, raised in a cage, and so he plays this whole weird persona. So he's doing this. I don't think, a side of me thinks that the actual guy named Brian Carroll didn't really want to be there. Now, being a monster guitar player and kind of like the opposite of Slash, they have him there, and a few of his parts make it on the record. Either way, there's this puppy. And the story goes is that the studio head, they just said, if you record this, we'll build you a chicken coop, and only you can go in the chicken coop to record. So he has this whole chicken coop in a studio. I think probably with like chicken wire and all that stuff. But it's a great product. Keep cats out of your garden too. That's another story. But either way, so he has this coop, and the puppy goes in there and it poops in the chicken coop. No one was apparently allowed in the coop. And Buckethead, I think just to mess with people, must have had either no sense of smell or something or whatever. He leaves the poop there, and he didn't want to get rid of it. Nobody was allowed in there. So one night when he was gone, people were like, this is starting to stink, like after like a day or two. So they went into the coop. Disgusting. They went to the coop, and they apparently cleaned it up. And the next day he went in there, he goes, where's my poop at, man? He was like, yeah. There was a whole other story about that where he liked to watch really weird porn while he recorded, but that's that's the story. There's some entertaining stories there with Buckethead himself. Honestly, like I think it was just him messing with them. I don't know if he was that crazy everywhere else, but he also released like on his own solo things, like I don't know, like hundreds of albums, and I don't know what the point of pumping that much music.
He's a very, very active musician.
Oh yeah, and unfortunately, the guy these days is a little bit. I think he had some health issues where his heart was going to go on him or something. But I think he ended up going out and touring again before, this new normal happened and stuff. But yeah. Anyway, there's a Buckethead story. I don't know. I didn't plan on telling that, but here we go. Since you brought up Guns N' Roses, and I thought of that, but man, they had some good guitar players over time too, like Bumblefoot. The guy was a monster and stuff as well. So speaking of bands, tell us a little bit about Sacrificer for people who don't know anything about Sacrificer. That's your band.
Cool. Okay. Right. Yeah. So Sacrificer, we're a 3-piece death metal band. And we're we're a band that kind of works at our own pace. So if you're following us and, constantly expecting new stuff to come out, you might be a little bit disappointed. But
it's fair.
We have a bunch of material that we're like releasing in single form right now. So probably we'll have a few new singles to release over the next, I don't know, 4 or 5 months, something like that. And yeah, basically, this band is, we're all in other bands that are active or, were active before the pandemic. The drummer and myself for a little bit, we're both in American Me. And the vocalist is from a band called I Declare War.
Okay.
It's a pretty popular deathcore band. Yeah, I don't know. We've just all been friends for a long time, and this is like our local band, I guess you would say. Like, just something we all basically wanted to play death metal, especially those guys both being in bands with a core attachment to them. So like they both play heavy breakdowns and stuff. It was just something that was sort of desirable for us to do, to play more death metal, less breakdowns, just more straightforward kind of fast-paced music. And yeah, that's basically how it started. And we've been doing that now for like 6 years, maybe.
Okay.
Something like that. I think we started it 6 years ago. We have a couple EPs out that are on Spotify. Released a single. It's been a few months now, but released a single a few months ago. Like I said, I have a few more recorded, tracked. They're mostly done. That are scheduled. Probably one coming out probably this month or next month, and then one the following month, something like that.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, well, that's awesome. Well, so people, if you can check that out, just remember they work at their own pace. I kind of work at my own pace too. It's hard to write music when you're busy. I mean, we all work. We all do our thing.
Sure.
Are you on holiday today?
No.
Okay. No, it's a holiday here. That's why I'm off. So
It's the holiday.
It's natal day, and I don't really know what that means. To be honest, it's about our capital city stuff. So some of us get the day off. So I'm off. So that's why we can do this in the mid-afternoon. So either way.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. So either way, it's hard to put out music and do all that stuff too. Like I have 3 demos I need to finish. One is my own song, 2 for other collaborations, and it just takes time. And I got another cover that I got mostly recorded, but I was waiting on other parts and stuff, But either way, so one thing I totally did forget to ask, and this is how not to do a podcast. Do you remember what your first guitar was?
Oh, yeah. It was a PV Predator.
A PV Predator. Was that before the Raptor or after the Raptor?
Yes. Before. So I think, well, I mean, I actually don't know that for sure, but I think the way that it went was you had the Predator, and then they released a more sleek version of the Predator, where the horns were thinned out quite a bit. The body was the first one was very, very much a traditional Stratocaster style body, right? And then I know that a couple years later, they came out with one that was a little bit sleeker, a little bit more Ibanez-y, I guess you could say. Because one of my friends got that guitar for Christmas, and I was always jealous. I was like, man, that guitar is cooler. And then I think they came out with the Raptor after that. That was more that was the idea. It was more like an Ibanez style guitar.
I like the
I could be wrong on that.
I like your new term, Ibanez-y.
Ibanez.
Yeah, it's like,
you know exactly what I'm talking about when I say it.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I mean, I only own like 4 Ibanez instruments, so a bass and 3 guitars like sitting over there. But yeah, no, that's pretty cool, man. And so you were also a Solar endorsee, or at least were. I believe you still are. And so
yeah. So the way that works is basically like, so I have people ask me about this all the time. So like, I'm just putting this out there for people. Literally, you just go to their website and they have a form you fill out to apply. And like, if you have so many followers accumulated through all of your different social media platforms, then you qualify. And maybe it's changed over time, but that's the way it was when I signed up for it. And I know they get a lot of like, you see it when they post like new Solar artists, whatever, and people are like, God, you guys are just signing all these people. But I wouldn't think of it as more like a traditional endorsement situation. It's almost like it's almost like Solar has just like a community of artists. You know what I mean? Like they just decided like, hey, let's take this community of people that play our guitars and like get them all together and have direct communication with them. And that's kind of the way it works versus, maybe like a traditional guitar company. It's like, this is strictly, a business deal. And they look to attach themselves to people that already have like significant followings and stuff like that. I think Solar is a really small company and they recognize that and they want to grow with these other small creators and musicians by building a community.
Okay, that's good explanation of that kind of endorsement and stuff, because it didn't strike me as the kind of deal where you're stuck only playing their guitars.
No.
They don't, and that's where like I think certain things like other companies have endorsements where it's like, hey, if you're signing on with us, I better not see you with an Ibanez, or I better not see you with a Dean or a Sir, or the list goes on and on. As I've heard stories from people saying like they decided they were playing something else when they had those endorsements. It's like, hey, what are you doing? So
yeah, and you got to figure too, like a lot of it really depends on the size of the artist, right? And
yes.
How much influence that they have, essentially. But you got to figure for them as well, it's like not beneficial because in the case of like signature artists, right? So guitar players that have their own signature guitars. I mean, not only is that their guitar spec, to their design or whatever, so they would be more inclined to play it anyways. But you would figure like it really. That's what they want to play and that's what they want to push because most likely they're getting, a cut of the sales, right? So it's like, why would they want to play another guitar and potentially get someone interested in that guitar versus like their own signature guitar? If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, totally makes sense. But yeah, I remember actually one of the days you messaged me like, so yeah, you're playing Solar. You're like, I just got you just signed on as an endorser and stuff. So what attracted you to those anyway?
Well, wow. What did? I mean, I've been a fan of Ola's for quite a while. That was probably, I think like him and Keith Mara were probably the first like YouTube channels that I ever watched. And like, it even got in my mind that like YouTube was a creative outlet, like a thing that you could do. And that's maybe like back in 2010 or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They've been around a bit.
And yeah. And so then, when Solar guitars came out, I was definitely interested in them. I wanted to buy a V, and I was like looking at the Jackson King Vs.
Yeah.
And, I have a Jackson Kelly. I really like the Jackson Kelly. But the thing that I really wanted to try with the Solars, is, they were a lot more designed for like my style of playing. Mm-hmm. It's an extreme body shape, but it has like some pretty extreme bevels on it, for like comfort. And it looked cool. I don't know. It reminds me of like the Batmobile in the Nolan movies or something. It looks cool. It's all flat black. The stainless steel fret, like it has all the specs that really like they're becoming more common with guitars,
Yeah.
but man, they didn't used to be at all. And so, you know, when I was like looking at getting a V, I'm like thinking about a King V, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna have to make these compromises. You know what I mean? And then I looked at the Solar, and I'm like, well, even though I've never played a Solar guitar, and there's no like shops I can go try one out at, this guitar has all my specs, and I feel pretty confident, I guess, that like Ola has a similar playing style, or like would like like similar things in a guitar that I would. So I'm like, well, I'm just gonna buy one of these things and see how it goes. And I did, and I was just like, you know, super blown away by it. And now it's my main guitar that I use when I play with my band.
Yeah.
So.
And like you were saying about the specs and stuff there, where like everything for the longest time was nickel frets, and now stainless steel was kind of like, you know, the higher end guitars. And then, well, Schecter was putting them on the KM series, if you know, the Keith Merrow signatures, which are phenomenal too, by the way. I don't know if you've ever played them, but they're cool. I mean, they're still mass produced guitars and stuff, but I mean, they came with good specs, like, you know, hip shot fixed bridges, also a Solar option. So one of the things that attracted me to Solar too is that, unlike a lot of other companies, you could find the Evertune option for not tons of money. And my problem was that I had guitars getting knocked out of tune by a heat pump. And
oh, really?
I was playing under, and I was like, man, this is like driving me crazy. And so I ended up buying 2 Solars with Evertunes, not at the same time, but I liked the 7-string enough that I bought the 6 and found a B stock. And it was awesome. Nice. Yeah, it was really cool. But like, it came with, you know, for the price point, I got the 1 series as well, but it came with locking tuners, stainless steel frets, lumen lays. And I've seen guitars at around the same price range from, like, specifically, I'm just going to mention it now. It was this Fender, it was the 80s reissue Stratocaster. Do you know the one I mean? It's like a funky looking color. Floyd Rose.
Yeah, maybe not specifically, but yeah, I think so.
And I looked at the price, and what the specs were, awful. Floyd Rose special. Ola at least puts, you know, Floyd Rose 1000 on it, something a little bit. It's not the OFR, it's a 1000, so they're not quite as good, but it's still a step up. And it's like, and then I looked at some other things, like Solar was really killing it in the specs, really, at the price point. So now it's going to be less than a Kiesel. Now, if you get a Kiesel, it's going to be a different ball game again, but you're going to pay a considerable amount more. And I thought for production, guitars are great, and so I use them all the time too. And that's kind of how I think I got talking to you, was from that. So anyway, yeah. And you're also a big Jackson guy too. You said you wanted a King V, and I believe you have a Kelly. That's right, did you say?
I do. Yeah, I have a Kelly and I have a Soloist as well.
Nice.
Which both get used pretty frequently. And I mean, even though like I'll sing the praises of the Solar all day long, I think my Kelly is probably the best playing guitar that I own, if I'm being honest. It's a little bit different, a little bit less chunky of a neck, a little bit like flatter neck, which I don't notice a huge difference between the two of them, but it's enough to, you know, mention it, I guess. And then I mean, you would figure, I mean, it's got nickel frets, it's not anything super special, it's got a rosewood fretboard, you know, not anything super crazy, but it just plays better. I don't know, it's just maybe it's the setup.
Could be. I don't know what it is either, but like the Jackson that's behind me, which is going back to his owner soon. Hi, Kevin. I know you're coming to pick it up. So anyway, either way, I know what you mean. It's like the neck is flatter on them. I actually compare it more to the Ibanez Wizard neck, because those Solars have more of the C, but the Ibanez Wizard neck was like especially the original run of them, like the old Wizard ones are thin. Do you ever play one of those? They're... I have one. So.
I don't know specifically a Wizard 1, but I do have a Prestige Ibanez that has a Wizard neck on it. It might be a Wizard 1 neck.
It's probably a Wizard 2 I'm going to take a shot at. But There's thicker ones too. They were like a thicker Ibanez neck, but they're still like flat. The Wizard feels flat, and the Jackson has that feel too. It's like, I don't know, it's just like the old school, like, you know, metal shred guitars, and they just, I don't know, they feel right to me though. I'm used to it. I'm used to it from the Ibanez. It's just like, and then also I like Floyd spacing for some things. I noticed one of the struggles I had when I went to fixed bridge more is that the strings were closer together, and I realized I was muting strings again with my fingers, and when I shouldn't have been muting those strings. I was used to playing on Floyd spacing, and it kind of made sense to me, you know. It's one of those kind of things. So since
even Floyd Roses have slightly different spacing though too. Like, I know this because Royce and I are, you know, building that guitar, and he was asking me. He's putting a Pro 1000 Floyd Rose on it.
Yeah,
and he was asking me specifically. He's like, hey, like, it has different string spacing than the original. Like, are you okay with that? And so I had to like look it up. I mean, it's not anything crazy, but I didn't even realize that. It's funny that you mentioned that, because I didn't even realize guitars had different string spacings until you know, he told me that, and I was like, oh, like, I always assumed that Ibanez's had wider string spacing, but then I was like, well, you know, all the Ibanez's I played have flatter necks too, so maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's just like a perception thing in my mind, but no, that's true. Guitars have different string spacing. It's really interesting,
and they do, and that's one thing you find out. There's other things too. Here's one that I learned is that tuner holes, like for your tuning keys, are not all the same size. And apparently, there's a European Asian size, and then there's the American size. And I have this Epiphone, so I bought a set of. I think they were Grover tuners. Yeah, they were locking tuners for a Les Paul. I thought, well, this would fix this up a lot. I could put these on there, and then they didn't fit, so I drilled it out. And people and I just tell people in the video, like, don't do this. This is stupid. And somebody's like, you know, if you would have asked me first, I could have told you. But like, I remember even in the interview, I was talking to, I don't know if it was in the interview, but when I was talking to Kyle Bull, the one time we did a video, he's like, I didn't know that either. But it's when you start fucking with things and taking them apart and trying to put something new in there, you're like, oh, so the American, like the Gibson holes are bigger. These would have been a direct swap. But the Epiphone was an import. And it's all these little things that until you get like really diving into it, or you got something taken apart and trying to swap, you're like, wait, none of these are the same thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you got to do your due diligence when you're replacing parts for sure. I mean, I ordered, you know, I have an EC256 back here on the wall. Yeah. Back there. And I tried to replace the tuners on it, and like, I went through 2 sets of tuners that didn't fit without having to like modify the headstock in some way. Yeah. And I was like, you know what? Forget it. I'm just sticking with the originals. I'll make these work. Yeah. And for whatever reason, like taking them off, maybe like, I don't know exactly what it is, but just whatever issues that I had with them originally, just by taking them off, pulling them apart, and then putting them back together and putting them back on, those issues went away. So we're out, I guess, in the long run. But that was like a good month of like being frustrated, trying to put something on, sending it back, waiting for the replacement, trying that didn't work out, sending it back, and then just realizing that, like, you know what, it's fine.
Yeah, you finally gave up. You stopped calling the call center. The whole music drove you crazy. It's like the people weren't helpful. It's like, okay, I guess it's not my problem anymore. I'm just gonna quit. But hey, as long as it worked out. But that's the thing with guitars. So speaking of this guitar, we have this. I think that's a piece of styrofoam on the wall you got over there.
Oh yeah, here, let me go.
Let's talk about this thing. I mean, I know you don't have it yet, but
no, yeah, he's still yeah. So here it is. This is the prototype, essentially. And what this is it's a piece of foam that you know, he just tests the shape on. So it's like, you know, he can give this to me and we can like sit down and like mess with it. I can go, oh, this is how my arm lays on it, you know, oh, the size of the horn's good. Oh, it needs to come out here a little bit. All those things without having to like an actual piece of wood, because especially like on a guitar this size, you know, more explorer type body.
Yep.
Wood's not cheap, you know, especially like slabs of wood like big.
So, no, it's not.
Yeah, so that's what we got here. And you know, he's I don't know. Every time he sends me pictures and updates, I'm always like blown away. You know, I post them on my Instagram all the time. So, you know, if anyone's interested in checking out the progress, you know, you can go look at my Instagram. But yeah, it's coming out killer. It's like exactly kind of what I imagined. You know, it was really easy working with him as well. Royce from Deviant Guitars. It's really easy working with him as well, because I essentially sent him this picture. I don't know if I actually put the picture on my Instagram. I should. Anyways, at the end when it's done, what I plan on doing is like having a full like step-by-step, you know, carousel or something on my Instagram, so you can see the progress in every stage. But what I did was I sent him, you know, he was asking me like, well, what kind of guitar would you want? What kind of body style, all that stuff. And I thought about it, and I was like I mentioned earlier, I'm like, man, my Kelly's like the best playing guitar that I have. So I really want to like capture as much of that as possible. Right. So, so he essentially just started there. And so this is mostly a Kelly body shape.
Yeah.
You know, like all this is Kelly. And then the only thing that I really don't like on the Kelly is the wing or the horn. Yeah. And so we just, this is more like it's almost like a direct mesh in between like a Kelly and a Warrior or something like that. This is like a more Warrior style horn. But this was actually, Ormsby has a guitar that's like the Metal X, which is like it's their version of a Jackson Warrior, essentially.
Okay, yeah.
You know, it's just stylized kind of differently. And the picture that I sent him was I just took the horn from the Ormsby Warrior X and slapped it together with a picture of the Kelly, and I was like, can you just make something like this? And then you played around. That's what we came up with, and it was like, wow, yeah, that's like kind of exactly what I was picturing in my mind. So yeah, really excited to get my hands on it and play it and check it out.
I like the inlay on that too, because I've seen the pictures. So, and also Royce's link is below if you guys are interested in checking that out. I don't know much about his whole business and stuff, but I have seen the pictures and stuff, and I know he's a really cool guy. So,
yeah, he's a great guy. And I think he does all custom stuff. He doesn't really have any production stuff. He's just he's a one-man luthier at this point, you know. Mm-hmm. But he does really good work. And you know, I actually met. So I met Royce through YouTube, sort of.
Yeah.
But I actually met him. He was one of my really close friends who works with him told him about my YouTube channel, and that's like how we were introduced, sort of. So it's like I know him through one of my friends, and you know, I mean, I don't know, you know, how much he would want me actually disclosing about what he does for a living, but the work that he does for a living, he's, you know, super detail oriented. He's a mechanic, and like it's incredibly highly detail oriented, and I think that sort of translates into his skill as a luthier. Like he's just very meticulous and like focuses on details, and is really, you know, obviously like good working with his hands and stuff too. So it's really, really cool seeing someone create things that they're like passionate about, you know. And that's like the thing that I like most about what he's doing and his work and stuff, is like you can tell he puts the extra time and care into his craft.
Yeah, man. And that's good. That's really awesome too. And I'm looking forward to seeing this guitar, and I know there'll be a video on it and all that stuff too. So,
of course,
I'll be watching that.
I'll be, I'm sure, using it a lot on my channel. I mean, it's, you know, back to the thing. It's like it's fully to my specifications. Like, the only thing that I'm really trying that's new on it is, you know, going with that 1000 style Floyd Rose versus the original. So might be a little bit different, slightly different string spacing. I think it's slightly wider, different tuner locations. It's a lower profile, you know.
Okay.
So that'll yeah, that'll be interesting. I mean, I'm sure it's not going to be anything that's like dramatically different from, you know, a normal Floyd Rose, but yeah, I think that's everything else is like it's going to have a set of EMGs in it, you know, an 81.5, pretty standard for me. You know, stainless steel frets, ebony board. You know, it's funny because back to when we were talking about all the stuff and building this thing, he's asking me about woods, and he's like, well, what kind of, you know, he's like listing off all these exotic woods, and I'm like, I just want mahogany with an ebony fretboard. Is that boring? Like, I don't know, but that's just what I like, and you know, that's what we ended up going with. But yeah.
That's awesome. Good. Yeah, that's super cool. And I'm glad you're actually telling me about this stuff. Well, telling us about this. Whoever decides to click on this video and make it, you know, 45 minutes into it, that's awesome. Super cool. I think it's like a dream. People want a custom guitar. Thing is that if you're going to get somebody to build you a custom guitar, know what you want. Like, play a bunch of guitars over time. Don't be like, I want a custom. Oh, and it needs to be like this. It's easy to say I want this color and I want this look, but there's all these things people don't think about, like frets. What bridge might actually be better? What's the difference between this? What neck profile do you actually want? You know, there's a lot of things.
Yeah, and I mean, he was even telling me when we were going through this process, because it was going so quickly, you know, I'm just like, this, do this. Oh, what are my options? Okay, that one's good. He's like, normally this process he's like, just even the design process takes forever, because once you start designing something for someone and then you show them it like on a I don't know what you call it, but like a blueprint essentially. He's like, you send them like an image of what it's gonna look like. He's like, they're like, I don't know, that's not really what I had pictured in my head, you know what I mean? And he said that like sometimes it takes a really long time to get through that process. So to your point, exactly. I mean, even like the small things you don't think about, where you want the bevels. Like, do you want a belly cut in your guitar? Do you like belly cuts? You know, are you a Strat guy? Are you a single cut guy? Like, I mean, there's all these different things to take into consideration, and it's definitely something you want to think about before you even start getting involved in this project.
So don't be afraid to go play some guitars and buy some and sell some off. Really, those are usually the people that know what they want in that regard stuff too. So you gotta be careful. Even if you start going to, like, you know, those shops like, you know, Key Soul or something, there's endless options and you almost have to look what they are. And a lot of these options you probably don't even need. And you know what I'm saying? Like, and then what you're going to really pay for is some crazy finish somewheres and stuff. Now, sometimes that does matter. Sometimes it doesn't. I don't think it's going to affect the tone, but you at least want to know the feel and stuff, especially looking for. Pink or yellow is not going to make the guitar, you know, faster, or does it? I don't know. Depends who you ask, but
no, definitely. I would think that the finish would have a higher, for me at least, it has a higher effect on like the playability of the guitar. It's like, you know, my Kelly has a gloss finish, and it's one of the things that I actually kind of don't like about it. You know, versus like the Solar that has that flat satin finish.
Yep.
Is yours flat as well?
Yeah, they're just the natural finished ones. There's no gloss or nothing, no sticky necks. That's just a complaint about exactly. Some necks is that there's sticky necks and stuff. So, but nothing like that in mine.
Yeah, I just personally like flat. I might be the minority on this, but I personally just like flat finishes because it's like I enjoy wearing a guitar. You know what I mean? Like I enjoy like a guitar getting worn out in certain places from playing it so much, you know? I think that like I would never go out and buy like a pre-reliced guitar.
No.
But I think it's really cool when guitars get that naturally. And you know, it's funny, I say I would never buy a pre-relic guitar, but I did buy a guitar that like has some relict features on it. That's funny. Anyways, but you know, I like my Solar, for example, like it's worn out in certain places already, you know, like where my arm rests on the guitar, like the back of the neck is, you know, it's not satin anymore. It's like I've worn the satin kind of out, or, you know, it's absorbed oils from my hands or whatever and gotten like slicker over time. And you can just tell by looking at it, like where I'm holding it when I play and all those things. And I think those things like give a guitar character because, you know, at the end of the day, it's like, it's really cool, you know, if you want like a crackle burst finish on a guitar and you just want like some artistic thing that you're going to hang on your wall and look at. But at the end of the day, it's a tool, right?
Yep.
And it's like, for me, it's far more interesting to have a tool that looks like it's been used.
Yeah. You don't want a case queen. Don't buy guitars to be case queens. Buy them to play them. And keep in mind, it's like buying a new car, it's going to get scratched. And
and that's okay. That's part of the character of the guitar.
Exactly. I mean, I scratched my new vehicle within like a week or so of having it. So, and I mean, $16 paint pen, but that's way off topic. So, to kind of like get us moving along one way, and is that, well, a lot of us, we're going to know you through YouTube and doing reviews. So how long have you been on YouTube? And when did you decide you're going to really like push that?
So I've been on YouTube for, maybe like I've been on YouTube for quite a while. So originally when I first started, my YouTube channel, I didn't really post any videos to it. I just like had this idea, like, I'm like, oh, Keith Merrow and Ola are doing this YouTube thing. Like maybe I should try it. And then quickly realized that like, there's way more to it than I thought. So, I had like a full-time job at the time and just, I don't know, like maybe not as ambitious or something. Like I definitely didn't have the ability to follow through on things as much back then. So it's just something that I never really pursued. But then when I got serious about it, is maybe like 2 years roughly ago. And so that's when I would say like I've really been on YouTube for about 2 years. And yeah, I don't know. I just started, posting videos like every week. I mean, I get asked every now and then, from people who are interested in doing it. How do you get started? How do you, this and that, really what it is it's making time to do it. It's just like anything else. If you want to get good at something, you just have to do it over and over and over again, even though, you kind of suck at it.
Yep.
And then eventually you just start sucking a little bit less and a little bit less and a little bit less. And no one sees that process, right? Like people just see like the things that you're known for, which are probably going to be, well, hopefully, are going to be like better videos and stuff. And they think you just kind of like popped out of the womb that way or something. But really, like most things, it's just a long process of being really terrible at something and then just slowly being less terrible at it over time. And that's the way it was for me. I just, every weekend, I came out into, my little studio here and, shot videos and edited videos every weekend. And I did like a year before I ever got any traction, before I knew what I was doing, before anything really ever happened, just a year of sacrificing almost every single weekend I had to get like, 10 views.
Yeah.
Most of which are like my friends and family. And then finally like I don't even remember what it was at this point, but I posted a video and it's like, it got a decent amount of views. And I was like, oh, well, maybe I should do more of that,
Yeah.
And then that's kind of just how it evolved over time.
It kind of feels like that for me too. It's like I was doing things and like, why does this just absolute garbage video have 2,000 views now? And then for me, getting that traction and doing certain things isn't quite as easy. It definitely varies. And it definitely turns into a life is not fair thing when people want to start YouTube. I never was really a person who said, oh, I'm going to start YouTube. I literally uploaded a video once, like in 2007. And it's like, I used to only play. That's all I ever did. And then I started doing it more. Had no idea how to use a camera or nothing, but I started doing it more. And then, life got busy. And it's when I got this place, I don't think it took hardly any time. Like I kind of got settled in. And one day it's like, I should start doing a video a month. And it's like, and somebody's like, you got 2 days left in January. Just put up a channel update. Just sit in front of a camera and do something. And next thing, I already had another recording. We shot a music video, and that's kind of where I got going. And then it was just kind of like more desire to keep making things. So then it kind of turned into doing gear reviews and stuff a little bit. And it was one of those kind of deals too. And you got to kind of just do it. And I heard about you from Kevin Kamala, and so that's how I found out about you. And then eventually I ended up joining the Discord and subscribing and all that kind of stuff too. And he was saying like, yeah, I think this guy, he did something with whatever, these pedals or something. It seemed like that worked out. And here's one thing. If anybody wants to do gear review videos on YouTube, if you can get some $6,000 guitar on your channel, and that's cool, and maybe a number of people watch it, depending if that person has like, you know, somewhat of a following or influence somewheres, and it might even get searched in like the algorithm some. It's the cheap gear that gets the views a lot of the time.
Yeah, definitely can be. I've had mixed results with, like, sometimes you post cheap gear and you're just like thinking like, oh yeah, like this is going to be a popular thing. Like people are, because you're right, for the most part, like people do search for budget things, you know, they want to make sure that it's worth their money, right? But yeah, sometimes I've definitely posted some budget things that like flopped. I feel like in the long run, those things do better in search.
Yes.
So to give you an idea, like, you know, I've done like a number of reviews, demos on like the cheaper Behringer pedals, and those tend to do well over a longer period of time.
Yeah.
But like initially, when I post them and I present them to, you know, whatever percentage of my audience that YouTube is presenting these videos to, like they're not really interested in them for the most part. They're just kind of like, whatever. Yeah. And then over a longer period of time, people will find them through search, you know. And, you know, and for those who are interested in doing YouTube and you don't understand what that exactly means, there are different ways to discover videos through YouTube. And YouTube's really, like, out of all the different social media platforms, I think YouTube does the best job at letting you know exactly what's going on behind the scenes. A lot of people, like, speculate on it and they don't quite understand it, but YouTube posts videos regularly. I think it's called the YouTube Creator Academy, but they'll just tell you like, hey, this is how search works. Hey, this is how recommendations work. Like if you want to do this, then focus on these things. And it's really interesting to me that people still speculate on the YouTube algorithm when it's like, they just flat out tell you how things work. And then they give you tools to figure out how to optimize your videos for those things. But so back to that, like if you're new to YouTube and you're wondering like, how do I start getting views and how do I start getting traction? I mean, like the best place to start might just be the Creator Academy and just going through their videos and listening to how the thing works. Cause you know, for like example on Instagram, it's like Instagram doesn't do that. Like Facebook definitely doesn't do that.
No. Well, I mean, they're both the same company.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And, and that's another thing too, is I think people view YouTube as this like separate thing sometimes, where like in reality it's another social media platform. You know, it's just a social media platform that specializes in long form content versus like what's really happening right now on like Instagram, for example, is Reels, you know. I mean they're directly trying to compete with TikTok and you can see implement that as well. But I really think YouTube's bread and butter is, you know, their longer form content, their videos. So I'm getting off subject here.
No, it's totally cool.
Back to the thing we're talking about. Yeah. So we're talking about getting traction on budget pedal videos. Is that what it was?
Well, we were talking about just starting YouTube and just traction and stuff. And one of the points I want to make too on top of that, actually what you're saying as far as I'm concerned is actually 100% relevant to what we were talking about, like starting on YouTube. It's kind of like the challenges and just learning how to do this kind of stuff. And one of the things I want people to keep in mind too if they're starting, if you're going to make content for the broad audience but you don't like doing it, you're going to burn out and you're not going to do it. You still, at the end of the day, algorithm this works that, people like Mr. Beast, blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, you have to do what's true to you and what you like. I'm not saying you can't try it. It's not saying you shouldn't try other things or other formats or whatever that is, but you still have to enjoy doing that content, or it's just going to become work and stress. And another thing I want to say too is that sometimes, like I'm kind of in that boat sometimes now too, is that if you're not feeling like doing it, don't necessarily just make some bunch of garbage and put it out, and maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, but people start seeing through that if you're just kind of like, I won't say you can't always phone ideas home. You can do that. You can do it sometimes. It works, but like, don't just do it just for the sake of whatever. Like, maybe spend that time, work on something really good. Everybody worries about the algorithm, this, that, what works, but sometimes really you got to do what you want to do, what you like. Now, if you don't do it, nobody's going to do it for you. That's the other thing people need to keep in mind too, is that you still have to show up and do the video. You still have to put in the work. Subscribers don't come to you because of whatever viewers and watch hours. Like, it's because if you've got those, it's because you put the content on the channel. You still have to do that, but it's just finding your groove. That's one of
and maybe that's not, look, maybe like your interest in this is not like serious. Maybe you don't care about getting views and subscribers, and like those things don't matter, and that's perfectly fine. And I think that again, like, people should view this as a social media platform, and it's like, and if you don't care about, you just want to make videos and post videos out there, and you're just like, I like this and I enjoy doing it and I'm putting it out there, and you're not too concerned with the result, then there's nothing wrong with that either. I think that you're right, though. It's like, if you do want to do this seriously over a long period of time, which, I mean, I've in perspective, you know, compared to other channels, it's like, my channel's very new and I haven't been doing this too long, but, you know, over the last 2.5 years or whatever it's been, you know, it's definitely one of those things that at bare minimum, if you're not doing at least like one video every now and then just for yourself, like something that you want to do, absolutely you can burn out. If you're just chasing views and chasing subscribers and just doing the things that you think are going to be popular, without any sort of without yourself in it, right? Like, if you're just, it's just going to feel like a job, and then you're like, well, why am I doing this? You know what I mean? I could just go work for someone else and get the same feeling, and actually like get paid for it, you know? So I think that it's an important point that it's like, if you want to do this, just make sure you're doing something that you want to do. You know, and back to the thing we were talking about earlier, it's like, making videos that are based around the music that I play and like my style of guitar playing, and not having to, like, you know, put on like an act for someone. I think that's a big part of like why I haven't really burnt out on it either. You know, if I was trying to make videos to appeal to a broad scope of people, like, I'd probably be pretty burnt out at this point. Yeah,
exactly. And it's trying new things, what works, different ways, stuff. Like, one of the reasons I like doing this is that I get to interact with people like you or Lee or whoever it is that I started doing this with. Even though it's not like sitting there playing or reviewing something, it's interactive, and it's like almost like I'm doing the work without really. It doesn't feel like work to me to sit here and do this, and it's enjoyable, and I get to know somebody, and we both get to have a back and forth. And that's one thing that I find, like with Instagram and all that stuff, we don't always do that. It's always like a text message thing. So it's fun for me to do this and stuff. And I see that Kyle Bowles doing these kind of things too. I believe you were like his first guest, actually.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it ever got posted. Did it ever get posted?
I know don't
he had
remember
issues with it. Yeah, I know he had some technical issues with it, and I don't know if he ever figured those out.
Who knows? I just know he said that you were like the first one he ever did something with there in that sense. But I know he has some, and he's a great guy, by the way. So now we're kind of slowly running out of time, like, and we're gonna be coming up at the end here. But I have one more topic for you, and you made a really big change recently. And I have just a terrible joke in my head that I'm not going to say. But you went to the other side, and you went to Mac. And I have nothing really. I now there's different things with Mac and Windows and all that stuff. But you were always a Windows guy, and you finally caved and went to the Mac cult. Could you tell us a little bit about that? Like, I'm curious too of how that worked, and like how that's going better, and what challenges you're having with it.
Sure. So let's start at the beginning. Okay, so when I started YouTube and started making videos, I had like a PC that I bought that was like you know, it was like a pre-built that you would just buy in a store, you know, like on the shelf. And I got it for like very, very little money. And, you know, it for audio production at the time, which is mainly what I bought it for. But I quickly realized that like if I wanted to edit videos on it, it was not going to cut it. You know, it was just not, it was too slow, you know, and it was really, again, back to that thing where it's like I was sacrificing my weekends, right? It's to sit there and be held up by your computer and then like have your computer crash continually and just have issues with it was just becoming less and less acceptable. You know what I mean? I was like, I got it. I'm getting better and faster at this, but I'm being held back by my computer. So built a custom computer, right? And for people who are interested in it, it's the first generation Ryzen 7 chip. It's a 1700. And then I have like a beefy graphics card in it. Can't remember off the top of my head what it is. It's like a RTX. I don't know. Anyways, it's a pretty beefy graphics card, and I thought, okay, like I'm set with that. Like that's good. And you know, back to this thing being custom built, maybe that's part of the issues with it. But I found that like I was sort of having similar issues with it, where you know, it would crash pretty consistently. And I always had audio issues, like always had weird audio issues with it, just weird things going on that I could never quite figure out. And I had a lot of, specifically anytime I tried to do anything with like OBS and streaming, I would just have like these, I would open up OBS and then if I didn't shut down my computer and restart it, it's like I would just have problems with it after that point. So, you know, like always these small headaches that I could kind of work around. And I had at that point, like maybe about a year ago, I had started actually having conversations with other creators and like started reaching out to people and started, you know, just talking to other people, you know, whether they're like video editors or other YouTube content creators, stuff like that. And the consensus among all of them were like, I don't know how I could do this without the tools that specifically my Apple products have, right? So a lot of them were using like maybe they're using Premiere on their Mac or whatever, and then they would make videos for Instagram and just airdrop them to their phone, which is like my workflow before. Are you familiar with like airdrop? You know how that works?
Yeah, I have an iPhone, so yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so like if you have an Apple product that's like within range, you send a file to it instantaneously, which is pretty convenient, you know, especially being a content creator. It's like you want to take something out of Premiere off your computer and post it to Instagram. My workflow used to be like, okay, well, I have to upload it to Google Drive, and I got to get on my phone and I got to download it, and hopefully there's no issues in that process or like, you know, whatever. Whereas now it's just like instantaneous. I send it to my phone and it just goes up, and that might seem like a really small thing, but when you're producing content every single day and, you know, you're creating stuff every single day, it's like this workflow becomes very important, and trying to maximize efficiency and make it as seamless as possible is really paramount in my opinion, because, you know, this is like, at the end of the day, it's like a creative endeavor, right? So whether, you know, you're editing video for Instagram or, you know, maybe you're a photographer, whatever it is, like all these creative things, having something technical get in your way completely destroys your creative flow. And it takes a long time to get back into that state, you know? So it's like, if it happens twice in a day, I don't know about you, but like if my computer would crash twice in one day, like I had to literally just step away from it because I get so frustrated, you know? It's like, you know, in The Shining, the movie in The Shining, when his wife walks in and he's typing and he's like, when you hear me typing, you know, like essentially like leave me the fuck alone. Like that's kind of what it's like being in that creative flow, right? Because you're like in the zone and you're working on something, and then your computer crashes. And even though like maybe you have autosaves on and you only lost like 10 minutes of work or something, getting back into that flow, that creative state takes like a good 45 minutes. So that was the big thing for me, is like having all these people tell me like, hey, like that's why I use Mac, that's why I use Apple, is because, it's reliable. Things just work. I don't have those weird issues that I had with Windows, all that stuff. So it was something that was kind of in my mind for a while. And Apple M1 chips came out that were like really affordable compared to other Apple products, and seem to have similar performance to a lot of their other products. I decided, you know what, like, I'm just going to do this, and I'm going to abandon Windows and PC and see how this works out. And it's still very new, so I'm kind of hesitant to say whether it's really worth it in the long run or not. But so far so good. It seems like things are a little bit more streamlined, and again, back to like the AirDrop feature. That's just kind of the mentality that these products have, is it's like they want to get out of your way and let you like just be creative.
Yeah. And it's always the price point. I just built a new PC and stuff, and it's honestly the one struggle I do have. It's mostly my old video card for editing, because the new programs, they want the beefier stuff. Now, depending on what formats of video you're using and stuff, like if I'm shooting like 1080p and doing stuff, it's a rocket. You don't have any problems. But like those hefty Z6
right?
files, say what?
You're on Ryzen, right?
I'm on Ryzen 5600X. So yeah. And actually the whole rest of the machine for everything else is like, for audio, it's awesome. I've never had a problem in terms of recording music, doing that kind of stuff. Even doing these podcasts, super. I mean, this will be a rocket to export this from. I'll put it in Premiere Pro, do like a little bit of audio editing, like a couple fixes, and it'll be like, boom. It might take a little bit because this is going to be over an hour, but it won't take that long. But since I've got this machine, I've had to do a whole bunch of exports that were CPU only, where on the older stuff I was able to use, you got a GPU only. You start learning all these little things, and you have problems, what works on GPU, what works CPU, and certain effects and things like that. For the most part, nothing's in my way. If I want to do music, like I can run any of the plugins, anything I've got like that with Reaper, not a problem. But have fun getting video cards and stuff these days. I know that will fix some of the problem. Keep in mind that working in 4K video is pretty hefty. It's just how it is.
Yeah. It is.
Now
you really need like a good CPU.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it comes down to.
And now, this is just a thought I've been playing with in my head before we go, is that I'd like to, at some point, I got to upgrade this desk, and for reasons that I'm not getting into on camera because it's nobody's business, I can't right at the moment do what I'd like to do, but almost like I'd like to upgrade the desk, and I almost would like to have like two setups here, and I'd like to actually try one as a Mac. Yeah. Have one, because like PC still has its place, but I would actually like to have something Mac as well for when you're doing those certain things. Now, you were talking about photography earlier, doing like Lightroom, Photoshop on this machine, a breeze. I have no problems. I've got a color graded monitor and all that stuff, and it's a rocket. I just did some family photos and stuff up for people, and I mean, what I'm seeing with what I get, and I got a good camera and stuff too, so I try to use it for what it can do as well. So anyway, since this is we're well over the hour point and stuff here, and I guarantee people made it through the first 10 minutes, but for those of you who made it this far, thank you very much. You should also make sure to check out Taylor Danley if you've not checked out his channel, or Sacrificer, stuff like that. Especially if you're into like the extreme metal kind of playing and reviews, you want that perspective to a product. This is the guy you want to talk to. An alternative to like just watching Ola England videos and stuff. And no, I'm not talking anything bad about Ola, but there are other things here. There are people do have different opinions and stuff, and we might be smaller, but sometimes we have maybe the answer you're looking for, or maybe a more in-depth review. Is there anything else you'd like to say today?
No, I think we covered it all. Yeah, I'm Taylor Danley on every social media platform. No weird handles or anything like that, so you could just search my name and find me.
Except on OnlyFans.
Yeah, New Sacrifice. Except my OnlyFans. I'm not giving that one away unless you want to pay him. But And then we'll have new Sacrificer stuff coming out soon. You can check out Spotify or wherever you listen to music. Hopefully it's there. If it's not, tell me, because then I need to figure out why DistroKid isn't distributing my music there, but it should be everywhere.
Yep. Awesome. So anyway, Taylor, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
No problem. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, man. And so you know what you guys can do if you've all made it this far and you haven't done that yet, you can click the like button. If you haven't clicked the subscribe button before, you can do that here and over in his channel. And you can go like one of his videos or all of his videos too. I'm sure he'd appreciate it. The algorithm likes that when you click the like buttons and all that stuff. So you can just go over and like them whether you watched them or not. Who cares? Like, whatever. Just do it. Anyway, you got nothing to do. And saying that, no, we all have lots to do. And it's August too, so it's I find this is the hardest month to get content rolling too, because there's all the stuff happening. So today was a good day for doing this one. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video, checking me out, checking out Taylor, in the appropriate ways. It's just wording, phrasing, and saying that you guys have an awesome day, and we will all see you out on the internet. See yous.